When I first got into orchids, I had problems with bugs and things, and it took me forever to figure out what exactly that is. So I brought in some show and tell things, and if you bring in plants that have problems for questions, just put them in a clear plastic bag. That way, if it's a serious problem, it doesn't get on everybody else's plants. This is a dendrobium, and if you look up at the top of it, right up here on these top growths, you'll see some little bugs, and they're mealy bugs. It's kind of hard to see through this plastic, and since I put it in there and set it in the hot sun, they've all moved around. But if we look in here, you'll find some right up at the top of this growth right here, and they're just little white cottony bugs that they do crawl around. Are there any Star Trek fans here? Remember when they landed on Alpha City 6, which was actually Alpha City 5, and they put creatures in your ears and made you tell lies, do things? They look a little bit like that, except they're white and fuzzy, and they don't drive you mad. Well, they do drive you mad, but in a different way. Okay, this is a Cattleya orchid, and if you look at the underside of the leaves, you'll see white dots. Well, actually, sort of cream-colored dots about the size of a pinhead. That's the female Bois Duval scale. And underneath that waxy shield, she may have 3,500 eggs. Okay. The white little cottony things that look sort of like gigantic bacteria, that's the male, and you'll often see the male before you notice there's a problem. But Cattleya is the plant that gets this the worst, and it's the hardest to get rid of because they will often be down on the roots. So you can pass that around. That's Bois Duval scale. And then the third victim plant I brought in is another Cattleya, and this plant has been abused for a while. But if you look at the underside of this leaf, you'll see a bunch of black marks. Generally speaking, it's very hard to tell, is this a black mark? Does it mean virus, or does it mean bacteria, or does it mean fungus? This is a fungus, okay? And typically, if you'll look at the plant and hold it up towards bright sunshine, you'll see that it's almost black, and then it tends to have yellow or yellowy green around it. That's a real indication that it's probably a fungal problem. This particular fungus is called Cercospora, and it is going around big time because it's either waterborne or airborne, or perhaps both. But it can go through a Phalaenopsis collection in a year. So if you see yellow markings starting on your Phalaenopsis leaves, start treating your plants with a fungicide, because it's deaf to Phalaenopsis. Other plants it's deaf to as well, but they're much slower to die. I'm using something called Gavin or was it Daconil Ultra? Yes, that's what I'm using. Yeah, thank you. But there are different types of fungicides. Some fungicides are systemic, which makes the whole plant resistant, and those are typically copper-based. Not always, but typically copper-based. If you put a copper-based fungicide on your dendrobiums, all your leaves will fall off, and you'll think, oh God, I've killed it. So be careful with what you're using, and if you have questions, they always say test it on a plant or two. That's not so easy for the hobbyist because you only have a plant or two. By the time you've killed it, yep, that didn't work. But the good news is, even if you kill the plant, you do get rid of the bugs. The other two things that I brought in are both in the scale group, the mealybug and the Bois Duval scale. They're both a little bit like mosquitoes, that they have sucking mouth parts, so they bite into the plant and they suck juice out of the plant. Again, you can get a systemic poison that makes your whole plant poisonous. The idea is that once the plant is poisonous, the bug sucks up some of that poison juice and he dies. There are other insecticides that are topical. In the home, you need to be very careful what you use, because most of the systemics are not labeled for indoor use. So you either need to take them outside to spray them, or during the wintertime when you really can't do that, you can certainly keep all these things under control with insecticidal soap. Buy your insecticidal soap at Wayne. Do you sell insecticidal soap, Wayne?
Yeah.
Wayne sells it. Any good garden shop should have it. But take a little bit out of your bottle. If it's a pre-mixed bottle, take a little bit out pour it in an old coffee can or something, and then pour some alcohol in so that you're mixing alcohol with your insecticidal soap. The alcohol will help that stuff penetrate the waxy coatings on these bugs. Alcohol itself may or may not kill them, but always start with a Q-tip and a paper towel with isopropyl alcohol, 70% isopropyl. Wipe your plant off to get rid of as much of the stuff that you can see as possible, and then spray it with the insecticidal soap, and you'll get the ones you don't see. Both of these are really hard to get rid of because the adults can be down on the roots. The babies can be down on the roots. So you think you got it off the whole plant, you think everything is fine, and then you look at it 3 or 4 weeks later and they're back again. So it's a game of diligence. Who's going to be more diligent, you or the bugs? And trust me, the bugs never give up. So just keep spraying them about every 10 days or so. I don't want to say forever, but forever.
Weed potting is a good time to work on them because you can take a fair weather plant, take a neem oil mix and soak the plant with a little neem oil mix with some soap and water. And that's the best time to kill off all your mealy bugs. The best time is when you're repotting. You may never get rid of them with insecticide other than that.
But there are lots of ways to get rid of these things, and all of them require due diligence on your part. Just read the instructions of whatever it is you're buying. Make sure that you're applying it properly. Remember that even if it's labeled safe for indoor use, that does not mean put it in your tea and coffee. It doesn't mean spray the pet with it because your pet has fleas. You know, you should probably, if you have pets, you might want to mop up the floor afterwards. All these things, they tend to be on the market for 6 or 8 years, and then the EPA says, oh, this is worse than we thought it was. Or it's too effective, and we got to take it off the market. So just use all those things with caution, make sure you follow the labels, but go through the entire program. What you want to avoid is to make a super bug, and some of these things are hard to get rid of because people have made super bugs. They put just enough imidacloprid on it that it becomes sort of immune to imidacloprid. You get a little mutation in it and the imidacloprid doesn't kill it. And then you switch to acephate and then you don't quite kill them all and then they become resistant to the acephate. So now it's resistant to imidacloprid and acephate and you're starting to run out of options. So make sure that you go through the whole routine. If it's a thing where you're fighting them forever, make sure that you're switching insecticides periodically. Okay, any questions on some of those problems? Okay, anytime somebody has questions, feel free to just, pin